This video is brought to you by Craven's Comic Books and Collectibles. Check out their weekly live show, auction, and sale at facebook.com/cravenscomics every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. And you can check out their inventory at cravenscomics.com. Craven's Comics, for the comics you crave. Working with David Aja, I know you guys originally worked on a Daredevil comic back in 2009, and you've been looking for a project to do together, and you guys came up with this, and it was a long journey for it to get to where it was. Originally, it was a different idea called The Scoop, and then kind of the bones of that were part of the creation of the Seeds storyline. And that the way you work is that you gave him scripts with a lot of information, and I heard you explain it once before that he kind of like took all that info, put it into a blender, and kind of spit it back out.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't a lot of information in the plots. They were very sparse and simple, like one line, couple lines for the image and the dialogue.
Right.
Very short, like the first plot was only 9 pages long, and the scripts were just a page. But then he did like what a director will do after a film has been shot, you know, you kind of like switch the scenes around to see how they'll flow, only he did that in the thumbnail stage in order to find the rhythm, his rhythm of the piece, because his point of view is just as valid. So he had to find his way of seeing it. And I think he has even a different interpretation of the story than I do. So he kind of saw his own story in it, and you as a reader see your story in it. So it's kind of a puzzle.
But with that style, like working with him, would you say that was was it kind of like improvisational jazz? Like it's sort of like very integrated on the creation of it?
Yeah, I mean, we tossed stuff back and forth for sure. And, you know, things that he didn't want to draw didn't end up in the comics. So, you know, I had moments when I was like, well, I know bees are going to be really important to me for this story to work. So I hope he likes bees. And then I would wait and see, like, and then it's also like I draw. So I was drawing a lot of bees, and I was drawing like honeycombs, and I was kind of like, okay, how would I do this? But until he sent me like the first image of how he saw the bees, I was kind of like, maybe I'll get an email. I really don't want to draw bees. So, and then I think when he found this alien, I don't know if you can see it.
Oh yeah.
Like an alien face inside the bee. And then I think he understood that, of course, that I was making some kind of a maze, you know, and he, you know, and I think the artist has to find their way to tell the story before they can start telling the story. And stuff that he just, I think, couldn't find the visual patterns for just got chopped out. And then I would get the pages back and have to say, okay, how can I, without too much excruciating exposition, keep the narrative together? Because sometimes pieces of the narrative would fall out because they weren't drawn. And so then I had to go, okay, how do I string this together? So I think some of the cryptic nature of the Seeds comes from literally pieces of the story falling out, and then me trying to go, well, will they still get this if I put this word here and this word there? So it became like an interesting thing. And at some point I just had to say, you know, it is what it is. And, you know, if readers, sometimes I get a lot of DMs now from readers, and they're like, can you just tell me who's talking on this page? Because, you know, there's no traditional, like the pointer goes to the person talking. They're often off screen, or they're like, it's in a caption, and there's quote marks, and there's clues that David put in the comics so that people would know who was talking. But every time I give the comic to someone who isn't a comic reader, they're like, oh my God, I love this, but I can't tell who's talking, and they'll DM me and say, who's talking on page 24? And I'll go, okay, well, that's, so I mean, it's been pretty cute. I find it pretty cute when I get those messages, like people asking me to explain a particular panel or page.
Oh, that's pretty fun.
You just have to roll with everything in life. As all of us know, in this time, in this pandemic time, we're all rolling with it, we're just rolling.
Oh no, for sure. Now, Ann, when you were talking about like how there's pieces missing from the story, like because of any number of reasons, when you look back on the story now as it's completed, is it still fulfilling what you thought it was going to be when you first initially thought of the story? Like, is it still coming across the way you want it?
I mean, yeah, it is. Like, again, I can only say it is what it is. I mean, we came up with it when Obama was president, and that's how long it took for this story to come out. And so, we did 2 issues pretty quickly and then went on a hiatus. That's when I did Ruby Falls. I spent, a couple years working on Ruby Falls. And then it came out, and then the pandemic hit and it got delayed even further. So for me, the sensibility of the seeds was right for when I wrote it, 2016, 2017. And by the time it came out, I thought, boy, I would have added more jokes and more levity and more whatever, because it was sort of like, this is not the right time to be putting out something so dark and claustrophobic and cryptic, because people are really confused about what kind of a world we're living in. So I think there's a certain amount of like hindsight stuff, but it's just, it came out when it came out. It's like, if you're supposed to give birth on a certain day and the kid pops out a month late, there's nothing you can do about it.
Oh, totally. But actually, I think that a lot of the stuff and the themes in the seeds are even more relevant now than they would have been a couple of years ago. So it's almost like it is kind of perfect timing though for this.
Thank you.
Novel be out there. We got an email.
Sometimes it makes me think, you know what? The next comic I do is just going to be as light as possible. Then I'll write that comic and it'll come out at a time when we're all like too happy.